Okay, so things didn't quite go to plan. So the garage I initially booked for, their MOT tester fell ill all of a sudden. So it was rebooked for today on May the 4th. May the 4th be with you. Haha. And he was still ill. So I had to book a last minute MOT at the same place he did my MOT last year. And we got a pass. Very, very happy. So I've got a few advisories. Power steering, pope hose, a slight seepage. Knew about that. Front wings are corroded. Knew about that. Hence why I've got a pair of replacements. The rear tyres are close to legal limit. That's fine. And I've got a little bit of binding from the front brakes. But all in all, not bad. I am very, 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 very happy. Yeah, a pass. That's so this car has already proven to be definitely better for MOTing than my Fiesta, which used to fail every single year. So I'm a happy boy. I'm a very happy boy. Oh, I can go and drive and do other shit. So, Judith passed the MOT. Not exactly with flying colours, but I'll take that over a fail, especially considering the car stood for 4 years before I put it back on the road last year. All I've done is just drive her, give her a little bit of a service, and just do the odd repair here and there. So, all in all, on the face of it, it would seem that this car is pretty solid, pretty together, and just all in all, a very good car. So, I'm not sure what to say. I suppose if there's one thing I could summarise my last year of this car, it's surprise. I was surprised this car would be as reliable as it is. After all, I have spieled about the history of this car and how they tried to make these cars as robust and as reliable as possible, but you still can't help but ignore the horror stories that people have with these cars. The fact that the electrics always go a bit wonky, or things like galloping rot, or things like that. I was half expecting the tester to find some kind of rust issue underneath, but no, surprisingly not. I was actually even more surprised the fact that the MOT advisory really didn't give me any new surprises apart from slightly sticky front calipers. I mean, the rear tyres I kind of got because they're winter tyres that I bought as part warns last year, and well, there's still a legal amount of meat on there, but yeah, they could probably do with changing soon. So it's not too bad, really. I've actually really thoroughly enjoyed this car, taking it to socials and whatnot. And if there's anything that's slightly frustrating, it's trying to film with this car, as this little outtake shows. I've got a charger in the car. Okay.
Beautiful car, is it yours?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, you know, my dad, a couple of years ago, he very nearly bought a Daimler V8. Yeah. He was really ex-funeral director's car, still had the tissue box in the back window.
Oh, right.
Absolutely mint. And 40,000 miles, 30 years old, this car.
Yeah.
Have a look.
We're trying to record a video, actually.
Oh, bit of it, ain't it? It's a Mark 1 MX-5, British Racing Green, probably pedals. Yeah. I don't really want to go on camera and talk shit about it because I don't know anything about it. But that's cool. I think fair play.
So even with 90s Jaguars, you still get people coming up to you going, "Oh, my dad had one," which is why I had to spend pretty much the majority of my bank holiday here just searching up and down the Cannock Chase here, just trying to find a nice secluded spot. And unfortunately, the most secluded spot I could find is right next to a main road. Sorry. But anyway, I have really enjoyed this car. She doesn't grab all the wrong attention. She generally grabs all the right attention, to be fair. The only people who have anything negative to say about this car are just the people I work with. Everybody else says that the car is beautiful. Everybody says that the car makes a lovely noise, has a lovely smell on the inside. And I think that's something quite special about this, because after all, let's not forget, I only paid 600 quid for this car at the end of the day. So if you can have a classic car that evokes all of those emotions, plus have a thumping great engine up front, a really comfortable interior on the inside, and just a surprisingly robust car, I think it's all of the good. In fact, dare I say, probably the best value classic car there is. Very nearly. But I think we should probably expand on that last point. So how about we go for a nice little drive through the Cannock Chase and explore that last point further. Is the Jaguar XJ40 the best classic car that money could buy? The XJ40, the best value classic car that money can buy? I would definitely say so. You get so much bang for your buck in this car. I don't think there's any other way of saying it. This car is genuinely fantastic to own. Now the biggest thing is, with a lot of classic cars, there's a lot of compromise to be made. You get the style, but you don't get the performance, you don't get the fuel economy, you don't get the practicality, you don't get the safety, you don't get the security. You end up with a car which costs you thousands and thousands of pounds, and it can be broken into with a hair clip. As much as I love classic cars, I will admit there's an awful lot of compromise to be made. You have to accept the fact that maybe sometimes you will be late, and when you are late you'll have dirty fingernails. You'll have to accept the fact that, yeah, people are going to want to overtake you because, old car. You're going to get people who aren't necessarily going to respect your car as much as a more modern car because, it's old. You're going to have to expect the fact that, yeah, your car may have the style, they may have the smells, it may have the comfort, but fundamentally, it just doesn't have ease of use. Sometimes it won't start in the morning. Sometimes it will just develop a fault in the middle of an overtake on the motorway. You'll have to accept those things. What I love about this car is that you don't get that. What this is a classic car with the style, with the comfort, with the engine noise, with all of the old world charm of the wood and the leather and everything else, but none of the drawbacks. I mean, this car averages about 27 to the gallon at the moment. Well, that's what this car's been doing this week. Okay, that's not exactly earth-shattering, but given this is a 4-litre straight 6 from the 90s, that's not bad. Let's be honest, that isn't bad at all. 27 to the gallon is pretty damn good, all things considered. Then we've also got the fact that the car is fuel injected, so it will always start. Then we've got things like anti-lock brakes, something that a lot of older cars just don't have, and arguably I'd say you don't need, but I will admit several times I have relied on the ABS a few times driving this car. So that's definitely one advantage you certainly get by having one of these over, say, an original XJ series. Then of course you've got the fact that if you end up in a bit of a shunt, if you end up in a crash, you've got the safety of knowing you have airbags up in the front. In fact, I believe, I think I read this correctly. In 1993, the Jaguar XJ40 was Britain's safest car. And I think that was probably the safest car produced in Britain. I'm not sure if it was the safest car sold in Britain, but I am have to go along that sort of line because it's a very big, very substantial car. And of course you've got the airbags and the ABS and all the rest of that jazz. Then there's the performance. Something you have to accept with an awful lot of older cars from the era is, especially the old XJ series, is the fact that you're going to end up with a car that tops out just about 115 miles an hour. You're going to end up with a car which, you know, is going to reach 60 sometime. This car may not be the fastest, but certainly is brisk enough. The top speed of an XJ40 4-litre auto is 137 miles an hour with a 0 to 60 of 9 seconds. And I have done that 9 seconds, so I definitely know that the car will do it. She's very good in that regard. Definitely on the performance point of view, she's very, very good. The car produces 223 horsepower, about 311 pounds-feet of torque, I believe. I think it's pounds-feet, I can't remember. There's definitely a 311 somewhere. Which means that the car has plenty of low to mid-range grunt, perfect for overtaking, especially seeing that I end up getting stuck behind modern cars all the time. It doesn't matter if I'm in a 50 horsepower Fiesta or 200 horsepower Jag, I will always be stuck behind modern people. This is a big question because, well, we're talking about the best value classic car that money could buy. So, what is my take? Now, I've already said that this car has none of the compromises of old cars, and yet, this car probably costs about as much as a bare South African Ford Escort shell. At least in top neck, these cars are, because I've seen a lot of restored higher mileage examples for around about the 5 to 6 grand mark, with low mileage immaculate examples for about 12 to 13. Do I care about the money? Kind of do, but also kind of not, because this is the thing. When I bought this car, I thought, if I don't get on with the size, if I don't get on with the thirst, I did have a shred of doubt that this car was going to be unreliable. Well, I did have a shred of doubt about this car's reliability, and I'm glad that's been proven wrong. But I did think after a year, if I get fed up with the car, I will just sell it. A year has now passed. Do I want to sell this car? No. I absolutely do not, because what would I replace it with? Can't be a 7 Series, because as much as I love the 7 Series, it's basically just an enlarged 5 Series. I know there's probably a lot of differences mechanically, but stylistically, that's all it is, just a bigger 5 Series. Then you got the Mercedes S-Class, which is incredibly squishy, but does that also go for the driving dynamics? Is that car going to be too squishy? What I like about this car is that the steering is pretty direct. I like the fact that the steering has a fair amount of weight to it. I like those things. I like the fact that this car is definitely one that you have to drive, and you do have to drive it. This definitely feels a bit more like a driver's car than a Mercedes would be. So, just on those grounds alone, you couldn't just sell this car and get something else like it, because I get nothing like it other than another XJ40. And then I'd be thinking like, oh, well, I prefer my first one. So, my plan with this car now, a year later, because there's been one thing that's been on my mind ever since I had this car. I want to do her up. I want this car to look nice. I want this car to drive even nicer than she does already. I mean, I've already said before, I've already waxed lyrical about how nice this car drives, how well she handles and all the rest of it, but I would love to give her underside a full overhaul. I want to change all the bushes. I want to perhaps look at maybe making a little suspension upgrade, particularly to the rear. Because this car has a tow bar, and because the rear is so soft, if I have 2 people in the back and I go over a slightly undulating road, or I go up a small ramp or anything, the tow bar scrapes, and it's kind of embarrassing. In fact, just today I overtook somebody on quite a, undulating road, and yeah, I heard the back end of the car scrape, and that's kind of embarrassing. Other things I would like to do to the car, I'd love to get this interior sorted out. I want to sort the veneer out. I've already sorted out the headlining, but I'd like the driver's seat to be a bit nicer. I'd like to fix this mirror here. I'd like to just sort the inside of the car out, make her a very pleasant place to be. She already is, but just make her even better. I'd like to get the remote central locking to work properly, because that's never worked in this car's ownership, and I'm still trying to diagnose what it is that's broken, whether it's the receiver or it's the transmitter. I've absolutely no idea. But I just don't know, and I would like to get that fixed, because, well, it'd be nice to just be able to go blonk lock. Nice and easy. I'd also love to get the air conditioning working, because as you can probably tell, I'm quite hot. I'm definitely very shiny today, because I'm just very, very warm. And probably wearing a jumper and a long sleeve shirt isn't helping matters. The lengths I go to provide you guys with entertainment. But then the biggest item I really want to do is I want to improve the paintwork. Because that roof, it looks atrocious. We've got the the rust on the front wings. I really want to sort that out. That's why I've got replacement wings, so that means I can do that. But of course, this is all hanging on me getting my Talbot back. So as soon as I get my beige beauty back, Judith is getting some love, and that is a promise. I am dropping the subframes, I'm dropping the axles, and I'm going to clean up everything, going to renew everything, make the car drive, look, feel as good as I possibly can, whilst also keeping an eye on the purse strings. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time. Doodly Bibski.